What's up, ladies and gents? It's Jeff with iDownload Blog. This is Let's Talk iOS episode number 2. I have my hosts, Cody Lee and Sebastian Page on the line. What's up, guys?
How's it going, Jeff?
It's splendid.
Splendid. And splendid shall be the word of the week.
Yeah, I have to use that. Everyone has to use that in a post at least once.
Okay. And next week you'll come up with another adjective to express how you feel, right?
Yes.
It seems to be a recurrent topic. So
I like that.
Yeah, I like
it's
that
very
too.
positive.
Right.
Very positive.
Absolutely. So we have a few things to talk about today, guys. We wrote down a quick topics that we would like to address during the show. And the first one I want to talk about is the final decision about iPad Air. On Friday, it will be 14 days since the iPad Air came out, which means that if you're not happy with your iPad Air and you want to return it to Apple, next Friday is going to be your limit. So we touched on this a little bit last week, and obviously a few days went by since then, but I wanted to get your feelings and see if anything changed and if you're going to keep it, return it, or whatever you're going to do with it. Let's start with you, Jeff.
Well, actually, my return date is next Saturday, or I guess this Saturday, because I've already returned it once. So I have a little extra day to think about it, but I think I'm pretty much set. Sorry about that, the stupid phone vibrating. I think I'm set. I am going to keep my iPad Air.
Okay, so it's going to be your new work machine kind of experiment?
Yeah, it's a good experiment machine. Like right now, I'm not even touching my computer. That's doing the podcast, but I'm like looking on Twitter. I'm looking at the show notes and doing all my stuff on my iPad.
And what about the last few posts you published on IGB? Were these made on iPad exclusively, or did you use your Mac as well?
It's all Mac.
It's all Mac,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what about you, Cody? What are you going to do with your iPad Air?
I am going to return it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going tomorrow to return it and probably pick up some other stuff from the Apple Store that I didn't need when I walked in there, but I discovered that I needed while I was in there. But, I mean, I've been playing with it for the last week now, and a little over a week, obviously, and the decision actually over the weekend became harder, right? I think if you tuned in or you joined us last week, I was dead set on returning it, no questions asked, but I think it's gotten harder. I really think, I really like the larger screen, but in the end, it's all about the weight.
So it's all about portability for you and being able to use it, carry it in one hand for an extended period of time, for example, or weight and size, right?
Yeah, I think one-handed usage is primarily, because I work from home. I am out and about every now and then, but it's not enough with my iPad to really need it to be portable. It's really the one-handed usage, and I think my breaking point is when I tried to hold my iPad Air with one-hand landscape mode. If you do that and you're just gripping on the edge, you'll notice a significant weight difference than when you do that with the Mini. It's not just the actual, grams or whatever difference. It's the fact that it's a longer tablet. The screen, display, everything's longer. So there's even more, you get less leverage holding it in one spot. I don't really know how to explain it, but it felt very heavy that way. And I thought, you know what? That's kind of the straw. So
what iPad minis are you guys getting again? I don't know if we ever actually said what mini you're getting.
To me, it's still the same model as I always get for an iPad. I get the Wi-Fi version, 16 gigabytes, just because I don't need cellular. Because if I need to, I can use my iPhone as a hotspot, and I don't store many movies or music on it. It just really is to consume light content like web, Twitter, RSS feed.
Right. And Cody, what also Sebastian, what color?
I'm probably going to get the space gray. I have the iPad Air right now in space gray, and it's a fairly good-looking device. My previous iPad mini is white, so to change it up a little bit, I would probably go with a space gray model.
Okay. And Cody, what about you?
I'm still kind of bouncing back and forth between 16 gigabyte Wi-Fi only and 16 gigabyte Wi-Fi cellular through T-Mobile. The 200 megabyte free 200 megabytes. Now that that's all been sorted out, that deal is still appealing to me. I don't need it. I'm rarely not on Wi-Fi, but so I'm still kind of bouncing. I don't know whether I want to go that far. Or just get the entry level model, the Wi-Fi only. And I don't know color yet. My iPad Air that I have right now is space gray. My iPhone 5S is white, white and gold. So there's pluses for both, right, that I can think of. The white, I think, looks better with iOS 7's kind of bright
I forget
design.
Cody's all about matching. Same thing with
I kind of am. It's weird, but I kind of am. So, but I have reasons for both, right? So, for white, there's the iOS 7. I think it looks better in a white frame. You can even look on Apple's website. Most of their marketing materials now show white devices, white iPhones, white iPads. But on the flip side, if you're watching a movie or something like that, any kind of content where the background is black, the screen gets substantially smaller, noticeably smaller at least, when it has a white frame around it, because then you can actually see the black border and the screen looks smaller.
That's something that seems to have been completely made up by a few people, and everybody's getting onto this train of thought that the white is distracting when you watch a movie. I mean, is that true?
I wouldn't say it's distracting, but I would challenge anybody to put a white and black iPad right next to each other watching a movie. And there's just something about it when you're watching a movie and the background's black. You have the black bars up on the top and bottom. Mm-hmm. When you can't see the edge of the display, it just feels bigger. When you can't see where that display stops because it's black, right, and you're going right into a black shell of the device, it's harder to determine where one stops and the other begins. If it's white, you can for sure see you only have, I say only, but if you have a mini, you have this 7.9-inch display, and it's matter of fact, right? Because it's outlined in white. So when there's that contrast, I think it makes it feel smaller. It's obviously, there's no magic to it, and it doesn't change the screen size, obviously, but I think it's definitely like a perception thing, and it's real for me. I haven't really read others' opinions on this, but it seems real to me that it feels smaller.
I'll take you to your words.
So you get
like I said, I recommend maybe at the Apple Store, check it out and see. And now, for most people, it might not be enough to sway them one way or the other. They might go, I'm getting white. But I don't know. For me, it's a point in favor of the black or the space gray model. And I'm still trying to decide between the two.
I can see Cody with his matching socks with the gold little ring around it, his Touch ID sensor, and I can see it.
That's funny, like to go back on iPad and iPad mini. I had family here for a week. My aunt, uncle, and cousin were here. And I managed to finally get my cousin to buy an iPad after all these years. And he bought it, and obviously he loved it. And his mom was playing with the iPad, and she's like, oh, I really like this iPad. It's really nice and everything. And I showed her my iPad mini. I said, hey, do you know, like, the iPad mini is coming out? And she said, yeah, I know the iPad mini is coming out, but I want the iPad Air. But I said, I didn't try to convince her in any way, but I was just like feeling the water already. I said, hey, but the mini is like lighter and it's smaller. You can put it in your purse. It's so much more convenient. And that's my favorite iPad. And she said something kind of that made me giggle inside. She said, for the price difference, because she asked me about price and stuff. She said, for the price difference, I might as well get the bigger screen. And I found it interesting that, it's some people still see it as, I'm going to get bigger because bigger is better. That's what it came down to in the case of my aunt. She was thinking bigger is better. And I think we had this conversation. Yeah, I think we had this conversation before, and I I don't know. That made me a little giggle inside. I was thinking, so if you need some shoes and your shoe size is 8, are you gonna get shoe size 10 because for the same price might as well get something bigger? I actually said that joke to her. And she was laughing. So she ended up buying an iPad Air as well. So that was a pretty good deal, actually. We went to the Apple store like 3 days in a row. We bought an iPad Air for my cousin, an iPad Air for his mom, and then we went back and bought 3 iPhone 5S for my friend's cousin back home in France.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of money spent at the Apple store in like just a few days. That was pretty fun. Well, not funny, but that was interesting. That was really cool. But speaking of this, it's a pretty good deal for people who live in Europe right now. At least in France. So they came from France, and the euro is about $1 is $1.3. So it's a pretty good deal to get like iPhones and iPads, and I think that's why he got so many iPhones for his friends. It comes down to saving about 20% of the price of the device, which is really not neglectable.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my little parenthesis here. My family parenthesis. That was really nice to have family in town for a while. My aunt cooks so well. And she cooks so well that I actually gained a few pounds this week. That was really nice. Anyway, that was my little side thing.
Who wants to talk about Pinboard?
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because today I was on a website. I don't remember how it started. I was on a website and I was like, I need to save this website for later, but I don't really want to bookmark it. And because I want to be able to access it, from anywhere. And I don't really want to save it to Pocket, which is my, the app I use to read later, basically. And I was like, so what should I use then? And, I thought about Pinboard, and I looked it up really quick. I saw the website, and I looked up a few apps for the service, third-party clients. And I know that you, Jeff, you use Pinboard. And I wanted to talk about you and see why you use it, how you use it, and what you do with it, basically, and why someone should or should not use it. I'm asking you here to sell me on Pinboard because I think it's going to be an easy sell. I'm probably going to get, subscribed to the service, but I just need to hear it from your mouth first.
Well, I think one of the best things about Pinboard is the fact that it has a business model. It's not like, okay, I'm going to give you this free service and we're going to sell all your information for that free service, or we can just shut down at any time. There's no accountability on our end. So that's nice. And that gives you more like a long-term commitment feeling with Pinboard. And I actually use the service to save links that I know in the future sometime I'm going to want to look at those links again, but I don't really want to think about it too much, and I don't really want to worry about organizing it too much. And I have like a keyboard shortcut set up on my Mac that I can just hit 3 keys and it saves whatever I'm looking at. It doesn't matter the browser. It saves whatever I'm looking at directly to Pinboard. One nice thing about it is it has a really good API. It's fast. There's the apps that you can get, third-party apps you can get for it, work really well. You can pull up all your content really quickly. You can search all your content. It's just a great way to save stuff you don't want to think about. It's kind of brainless.
Right.
Well, I got a question for you on that note, because when we were talking about Pinboard earlier, it got me curious, so I kind of looked it up, and it actually, to me, when it talks about all the things that it can do, and when you bookmark a page, it lets you add tags and descriptions and small photos or whatever. So to me, that almost seems like it's not brainless. It's the opposite. To whereas I can just, I have a little in my bookmarks bar, both of my browsers, I have plus Pocket, so you can just add to Pocket right there. Click, and that to me is brainless because it saves the article, and you can go and look in your Pocket queue and you can see everything. So how is this different, I guess?
Well, outside of the whole thing about Pocket, it's just a free service. Like, we've experienced that countless times already where we sign up for these services and then they could just be gone the next day and there's all your data. For instance, well, the various Google services out there that are no longer existing. So that's one feather in its cap right there. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is if you pay, I think it's $25 a year, I think. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but it'll actually cache every page in your bookmarks list. So it'll actually go out there and save off a snapshot of every single page in your group of bookmarks. Why is that beneficial? Well, it's because, say, one of the links that you had your aunt had this great recipe. She cooked so well. She had this wonderful recipe that she sent to you, and you bookmarked it in your Pinboard. And that site went offline a year later. And you're like, oh, man, I can't get to it. Google Cache isn't working. Well, you have it right there in Pinboard. It's all there. The full page is there because it saves it. It saves a copy offline for you.
Okay. Do you tag when you do this and save posts for later? Do you add tags and different things like that, or do you just
from time
throw
to
it
time,
on your Pinboard?
Usually, I just throw it in there because there's this great. I need to plug this app because it's actually really awesome.
How do you? Okay, if you just add it to your Pinboard without tagging or describing it, how do you find it later on?
The search is great. It's there's an app I use, a third-party app called Shiori, I believe, and it's a menu bar app that runs on your Mac, and you can do searches just by entering a keyboard shortcut, and you could search. I mean, if you know what it pertains to, like anything in the article, you can pull it up really quickly. It's just you can just perform a search, just like a Google search almost. And it doesn't matter if it's tagged or not. You can generally find what you're looking for.
Okay.
I've noticed that when you bookmark something, the results are basically your list of bookmarks. They kind of look like Google search results, don't they?
Yeah.
Especially if you add the tags and the description, they almost look exactly like Google search results.
Yeah. I don't really use the website that much. I use a third-party Pinboard client called Pins for iOS, and then I use Shiori, which is a wonderful menu bar application for the Mac, and it's free, and that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't live without that. I'm always using that to bookmark just stuff on the whim, on the fly.
So would you say this is more for power users or more for average bookmarkers, or would you say it's for both?
I would definitely say this is more like a nerdy power user thing.
First you have to pay for it, so that's definitely just right here. And you mentioned the $25 a year fee. It must be noted that the $25 per year is only for archiving and saving every page you bookmark. If you want to, you don't have to use this. You don't have to pay the $25 a year. If you want to use Pinboard, though, you have to pay. It's $10 it's a one-time fee. You just pay $10. It's actually $10.25. You pay this one-time fee, and you can use Pinboard for as long as it lives. You don't have to pay anything else ever again to use the service. So just this alone makes it kind of a power user thing, because people who are not power users will not pay for the service. They will just use Delicious and, go at it for free.
Right. And that's the thing. They're limiting they're putting a ceiling on the amount of users that they're going to have. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's probably what they want, because if everyone could just sign up, then that could break their business model. It could make it so storage was too expensive, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, or to go back to something you mentioned, you said you don't like to rely on you said that it's not a service that is free, that might be taken away from us at some point, like Google Reader was, for example. Google Reader was free. Google took it, killed it, and we were just left hanging there without any really good option. I don't think that because you pay for the service for Pinboard is going to make it more reliable. I mean, now we know that the developers are actually making money from it, which is an incentive for them to work on it and improve the product and keep it alive. But it doesn't mean that at some point these guys are going to be like, okay, we're not making enough money, we're going to kill it off.
Right, but I'm sorry, Cody, but likelihood of that is a lot lower, I would think, than just something that Google says, okay, guys, you have 20 hours or 10 hours a week you can work on this side project, and we'll put it out there, and then 3 years later it's gone.
Right.
I just think that if this is their main thing that they're concentrating on, they're working on always improving it, then yes, obviously any company or service can eventually shut down. Doesn't matter if you pay. I mean, Enron, look at that. I mean, billions of dollars going bankrupt, but the likelihood of that is much lower.
I like your example. I like your comparison, Pinboard to Enron. No, but here's what I was gonna say. I got really intrigued by this and kind of did some even backstory reading, and you can find these in Wired, and a lot of sites have written about Pinboard because it seems like it's just this real homebrew project. I think Wired called it. It's just a guy in his underwear sitting here competing, in his living room, competing with these multi-million-dollar businesses. It actually says on the website that the business is self-sufficient or self-sustaining. It says the site pays for itself. We don't have any investors. So I thought that part I think the project is cool. I just don't know if it's for me. You're right. I think it's geared toward power users, and you can see that in the UI. I'm a fan of minimalism, I guess would be the word. I'm a fan of that as much as the next person, but I also like a little style.
Right.
I think iOS 7 is a good example of style plus minimalism. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but this is just basic text.
Well, the
Literally,
thing is,
there's nothing else there.
That's true, but this guy has created an awesome API, and that's what he's really relying on. I mean, most people who use Pinboard, I mean, yes, there's a lot of them probably do use the website, but I'd say probably at least half use an app, and there's quite a few apps out there.
Yeah, I checked on the App Store and there were like a dozen very, very slick looking iOS 7 looking apps for Pinboard already out there. Yeah. So yeah, that's not something you would probably use. And they show on pinboard.in, actually, it's not pinboard.com, pinboard.in, Pinboard, and they say that they have also a mobile version of the service of the site, and I mean it's really not good looking. I don't think you would want to use this unless you were stranded somewhere with a terribly slow internet connection and you didn't have a Pinboard client, so you would just use the mobile version, but if not, you would definitely have, I think, a Pinboard client.
And I think some people they use it because, yes, it is just one guy in his underwear, quote unquote. That's appealing to them to be able to support independent developers. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm relatively new to Pinboard. I'm not somebody who's been using it for years and years, and not one of these guys who, foresaw how great of service it would be. I'm kind of late to the party myself. But I've been using it probably for about a year, and I just like the idea of being able to support someone's work who works hard on their project. Good.
That's a good motivation. Do you use the archiving service as well?
I don't, but I've been thinking about it. I just don't think I have. Like, if I lost a link, I wouldn't cry or anything like that.
Right.
But,
yeah.
But the service as is, the $10, or I think I paid like $9 actually. I think it increases, so much. Every user, I think it goes up
maybe every 1,000 users it goes up 10 cents or something like this.
It was an interesting way that the price rose kind of exponentially to match the users, which is
that is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I like it.
All right, sold.
He said sold. I want to talk about fitness accessories. Fitness accessories and apps.
Yeah. Do you use any? Do you have any accessory like a wristband, like a Flex?
I've been through them all.
Already?
Let's see. My first was a Jawbone Up. I got it the second model, right? The first model was terrible. They dished out refunds to everybody. Yada yada yada. They came back within a year, which I believe was towards the end of 2012. They came back and said, hey, we've completely redesigned it. This is great. Da-da-da-da-da. So I got in on the second gen version hoping that all the other problems had been alleviated. I probably wore it and used it for a good 4 or 5 months, and I just wasn't impressed. It wasn't accurate. I don't know that it was necessarily, I can attribute its problems to the previous problems, which are like water damage and things like that. But I just wasn't impressed with its capabilities. It had a silent alarm that would vibrate to wake you up at different times in the morning, and it would never wake me up. So from there, I moved on to Fitbit's Flex. The Fitbit Flex is very similar to the Up. It's a wristband. I think it looks better, honestly. But Fitbit just has a really good reputation in the fitness tracking or health tracking world, and so I gave that a try, and I think I've damaged mine through water. It doesn't hold a charge for more than a day or two, so I was able to use that one for about 4 or 5 months, and now it's ruined. So I have a Withings Pulse. Now this one's different. It's not a bracelet. It's a like a clip-on thing, similar to like Fitbit's other products, like the Fitbit One and things like that. It's a clip-on thing, and it also has a pulse detector on the back, so you can put your thumb there, and it'll give you like your heart rate or something.
It confirms that you're alive.
Yeah, basically. Like say you're doing some strenuous activity. I mean, the way, if you read fitness stuff, they say you want your target heart rate to be this if you're this age and this height and this weight. And so you're just supposed to be able to check it real quick and see if you're in your target heart rate. If you're above, you're usually supposed to chill out a little bit. If you're below, then you can kind of turn it up. I haven't found that to be super accurate. It doesn't always give me an accurate reading, but as far as the heart rate goes, but as far as the actual tracking of your walking and stuff, I think it works well.
Well, for the tracking now of your walking, you can just use your iPhone 5S.
You can now, and that's been an interesting development since, because I had a lot of these products before the 5S was ever even mentioned, and its M7 coprocessor that tracks all your movement. So that's an interesting development, especially with Nike's new Move app. I haven't really had a chance to play around with that.
Do you have the Nike Fuel Band?
I don't, but I have Nike. I've used the Nike Plus sensors that you put in your shoes. Mm-hmm. I have 3 or 4 pairs of gym shoes, and they have these Nike sensors in them. So I've used those before. I just haven't tried the Fuel Band. I really wanted it to have some kind of sleep function. All the other 3 or 4 accessories I've had have that sleep function where it can track your sleep, and then it can help wake you up in the morning. And I was hoping this second generation of Fuel Band would have it, and it doesn't. They didn't really do much to it, honestly. They gave it a few more colors, and they say they improved the Nike fuel points, but and I'm not like a huge gym buff. I'm not like, I don't look like muscle nerd, but I have, like I go through cycles where I get put on weight and I try to, I get back in the gym and I take it all off. So yeah. And so these things kind of help me. I use an app too. There's an app called Zombies Run. So when I want to go and run on the treadmill, it's pretty cool. It basically, while you're running on the, either on the street or on the treadmill, kind of a storyline follows you. And so you have your headphones in, and it's like, hey, there's zombies are 10 miles behind you. Now they're 5 miles. You better hurry up and run. And there's a whole storyline, and you can hear them getting closer. All the the zombies getting closer and closer and closer. It makes you run faster. I don't know. It's kind of fun. So I figured I'd plug that app real quick.
Okay. Since the iPhone 5S came out, I started gaining a little interest in health and fitness tracking, and that's mostly due to the M7 coprocessor. And it's been working fine for me, but within the last week, I noticed that it's kind of stopped tracking my steps. And so let's say it's like 2 p.m. and I've been walking already quite a bit. And I use, what's it called? Argus, the Argus app, which was actually the very first app in the App Store to take advantage of the M7 coprocessor. It came out, it was updated on September 22nd, the day the iPhone 5S came out. And so I've been using this, and it's been working great until a week ago. Now, if I launch the app at any time during the day, it just shows 0 steps for that one day. And it starts collecting my steps from the time I launched the application. So totally inaccurate, because nothing is recorded from the time before I launched the application. I don't know why that's happening. But it's been happening for about a week now. So I just deleted the application and say, well, I'm going to have a new iPhone in a couple of days anyway. So I shouldn't even bother about, trying to troubleshoot this. I'll figure it out with my new iPhone, which is coming on Wednesday. Apparently my gold iPhone that I ordered a month and a half ago. It's finally shipped and it's going to be here on Wednesday. So I'm going to have this and exchange my Space Gray iPhone 5S for it. So that's the side note here. So yeah, I've been using the M7. It's been failing me for a while. I'm not sure if it's hardware, if it's software, or if it's...
Have you tried a different app?
No, I haven't. What I tried to do was to delete the application and install it again, but the same problem happens. I didn't try different applications because I don't think it's about the app, and especially because I don't think the app was updated recently. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't updated ever since I got my problems. It's not like I could pinpoint the date to, oh yeah, this app was updated that day, and that's the day when the problem happened. So I know it wasn't updated within the previous days that my problem started happening. So maybe I should try another application. I know, there's now a bunch of them in the App Store, but there's a couple ones that do the job just fine. Yeah, so I find it interesting. Now when it was working, I was kind of tracking my steps. I had my goal of 4,000 steps a day, which really isn't much. It's like the very minimum you can set in the Argus application. That's the minimum, But
it's funny you say it's not much, but it's tough when you work from home and you sit at a desk. And I've found it tough. I've had to really make sure, I've had to set alarms to get up and move around to really... My goal is usually 8,000, between 8,000 and 10,000 steps. And it's tough even to get over that 5,000 step hump when you sit at a desk, even if you don't work from home, even if you sit at your desk during the day.
Absolutely. When my family was here last week, I kind of took the week off and showed them around. So we were walking a lot. On the beach and in town and all that stuff. And I know I was walking a lot more than usual. And I was barely breaking the 6,000 steps mark. I was like, that's almost impossible unless you live in New York and you have to, get on the train and walk around town to go to work. How do you do so much walking in a day? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too lazy. But I think 4,000 steps is or 4,000 or 5,000 steps is 2.5 miles or something. So, that's, to me, that's pretty good. If you walk 2.5 miles in a day, that sounds pretty good. But apparently that's very average, probably below average too.
I think a mile is 5,200 and some odd feet.
Really?
So I would assume that would be about how many steps? About 5,000 steps would be close to a mile. I would think. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I'm pretty sure. But that's not too much over what you were saying. It's still, you can walk. I think if you have a job where you move a lot, I used to work in retail, and when you would get busy, I could see, or maybe you're a server at a restaurant or a bartender or something. I could see how running back and forth across large stores throughout the day could net you, maybe a mile or 2 miles.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff? You a fitness guru with your iPhone or maybe some accessories?
You just get that text I sent you.
I did.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to say that out loud. I didn't know if you wanted us to say that out loud.
I'm going to. Jeff sent us a text saying, I've taken 246 steps today. 3% of my goal.
240. And it's 7 o'clock there. So your day's pretty much gone.
Hilarious. But yeah, I don't really use any kind of fitness app, as you could probably tell. But there is one app that I do like. It takes advantage of the M7. It's called Pedometer Plus Plus.
Yeah, it's a free app, right? And this one just keeps track of your steps. That's it, right?
It's all it does. I don't need all the extra fluff. Just tell me how much I walked. That's it. Plus,
just tell me I walked 270 steps today.
I find that these apps, as much as people swear by these apps, I find them to be largely inaccurate in these fitness, like wristbands and stuff like that. I just don't think. I think it's just something to distract you, basically, from doing what you actually need to do, which is getting outside and working out or going to the gym. It's like a feel good thing. But that's just my opinion. Not knocking anybody who does it, because if that does motivate you to get out and do it, then that's good.
Okay. I just downloaded. Sorry to cut you off here. I just downloaded Pedometer Plus, and that's funny because it's giving me results that are very different from what Argus was giving me. It started tracking last Tuesday, November 5, and so it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I know these days on Argus we're like 4,000. It tracked at least 4,000 steps. Here it tracked more than double this. So, for example, on Tuesday, November 5, it tracked 9,000. Let's say 9,000 steps, representing 4 miles. On Wednesday, 10,000 steps, 4.5 miles. Today, oh my God, barely 1,700 steps. Yeah, today was a lazy day. But so, yeah, Cody, you're right. It seems that the problem was coming from the app I was using for some reason, not tracking properly my steps.
It seems bloated, Argus. I mean, I like the minimalistic look of. I mean, it does one thing. It tracks your steps. It doesn't try to tell you what to eat.
The reason why I used Argus, I liked it because I use, and I didn't mention that before, I used the Withings Smart Body Analyzer scale. So it's basically a scale that sends your weight to your to an iPhone app. That's really what you use it for, and you can see the graphs and how you gain weight and how you lose weight. It also tracks your heartbeat, and the quality of the air inside your house, inside the room where the scale is. So I use this the scale, and I love it. I'm not sure it's really worth $150 to me, but I really like it. And so Argus was able to sync with my Withings app and display not only how many steps I took that day, but also what my weight was on this morning when I got on the scale. So that was like a double feature kind of app. But I agree with you, Argus is very bloated. It has all these tiles that I don't really need. Pedometer Plus, it looks pretty cool. It's gonna be on my screen from now on for sure.
Here's something that actually I just thought of this when Jeff was talking about, and I totally get right that some of these accessories may seem like they're not necessary to get out and actually start working out and things like that. I almost think they're more for people who are already working out, who don't need any kind of motivation whatsoever, but it'll help them track their progress, maybe as they go from running 1 mile to 3 miles or 3 miles to 5 miles, things like that. You've seen the rumors, right? Apple's supposedly working on a wearable device that's going to incorporate a lot of this stuff, and I think this is going to be a huge market eventually. But I would agree that they're probably not there yet. And like I've said, I've tried almost everything out there, and I just don't think, and I don't have, none of them are currently working or I'm currently using, so that should say something. I don't think it's there yet, but I think it's going to be a huge market in the next year or two.
Yeah. That's kind of an abrupt end to the conversation. Yeah.
No smooth transition.
Yeah, no smooth transition here for you. But I do agree with you. I do agree with you, Cody, and that's why I want to talk about this today, because the more I think about it, the more and again, we talked about this before, but I still like talking about it. The iWatch is not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a watch. I think it's really going to be some sort of
bracelet band,
and it will give you the time if you need to, but it's not going to look like a watch. It's probably, to me, in my head, it's probably going to be more something like a fuel band than anything else. That's really that's really what I think it's going to be like.
Because you can't imagine Apple trying to replace the analog classic watch on everybody's wrist that they've been wearing.
And to be honest, I really don't want a watch. I mean, I don't wear a watch. I wore a watch when I was a kid. My grandma offered me a watch, and it was a Swatch watch, and I loved it. But I also had a Flick Flack. Did you guys have this in the US? Flick Flack? It's like two little.
Well, describe it. Maybe it's a different.
Hold on,
word.
it's Flick Flack. It was called Flick Flack, right? It was like a watch with like the needle. You call them the needle, the things pointing at the numbers on the watch, were little guys. So one was a little guy, and the other one was a tall guy, and they were pointing at the time.
No, we never had that.
No?
No, that
really,
that never
you guys
came
missed
through
out
here.
so bad. Okay, I've got it. Flick Flack. Okay, I've got it here. It's Flick Flack. FLIKFLAK. Okay, what I'm missing? There's something I don't understand. I think I'm lost in translation here. It seems like Flick Flack really means something, maybe something dirty, maybe an insult or something in the US, and I'm not really getting it.
Oh no!
I don't know. You guys are giggling in the back here. I'm like, well, what am I saying?
No. We've never had a product anything close to that. It was funny because you're like, oh, this is a big part of this was real popular in France, and
I've
I've
never heard
of a watch with a tall guy and a small guy.
Okay, that's something to teach kids how to read the time. I mean, it's not something you wear to go to work when you're like 25. It's something you use when you're like 6.
Okay. See, that makes a little more sense. Yeah,
I sent you a link if you want to check it out.
We'll put it in the post.
Show notes.
Yeah, put it in the show notes.
But I totally.
All this to say that I don't want a watch on my wrist. A watch is too big. And I don't need a watch. I don't want a watch. I have my iPhone to give me the time, and I don't want to have the time all, looking at me all the time, reminding me that time flies by so quickly. But something like a wristband, I would totally be sold on it.
Yep. Totally agree. So, speaking of wristwatches, what do you guys think of that? What do you guys want to talk about iOS app switchers? See, terrible transition.
That was a terrible transition. Maybe Jeff can edit this out and make it like a smoother transition or something. Maybe like have a music, like ending music and starting music again. I don't know. There has to be something. Pretty much anything could be better than that at this point.
Ouch.
You guys feel about talking about the iOS app switcher or not? That's something we can skip, really. We've been talking for quite a bit already.
Yeah, I say skip it.
Skip it?
Skip it.
Yeah.
All right. Skipped. Skippy. Something I do want to talk about, though, really quick, is the Google Search app update that happened last week. I'm not sure if you guys use it. Do you use the Google Search app?
Okay, Google.
Yeah, that's that one. And
I don't use it, actually.
Really? It's on my home screen because anytime.
Is it really?
Yeah. Anytime I search quite often, and Siri is almost unusable for searches because it barely understands me, or there's too much activity around me, and it just says it doesn't get it, or it takes forever to return the result. So after a while, I was like, okay, I'm going to use the Google Search app, and I really, really like it. As much as I don't really like Google and I don't trust them as a company, and I would want to get away from them, from using their services. Their search app is really good, and now that you can say, okay, Google, search for whatever you want, to actually activate the voice recognition engine, I mean, that makes it even better to me.
Someone needs an Android device. That's one thing I really like about the Nexus 5 is just being able to say, like, I'm at the home screen right now on my Nexus 5, and I just say, okay, Google, and okay, Google. There we go. And it just pops right up. So I don't have to open up any apps or anything. It's just always listening.
Yeah. So on iOS, you still have to launch the application to do this, obviously.
I'll definitely agree on the fact that Google, there's nobody does search better than Google.
What?
And I don't think anybody's doing voice search better than Google.
Well, I'm sorry, that cut off. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think there's anybody that does search better than Google.
Well, yeah.
And I don't think anybody's doing voice search better than Google. So that's the reason why it's getting Google Now right on the Android devices. And that's the reason why the search app is so awesome. I go in spurts where I'll have it on my phone and then I'll delete it. I tried it out to check out the OK Google, which I thought was cool, but the fact that it's not integrated, as part of iOS is tough, right? Because you got to open up the separate app. But yeah, Siri's becoming more and more unusable for me. I don't know what Apple's plans are for that.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's the reason why I use it to search the web anyway. I still use Siri to do some schedule some events in my calendar, or add a quick reminder, or set a timer. But if I need to get serious, that's when I pull out the Google search app. So yeah, I was, when I saw this update, I was really impressed by it. I really like it. I wish maybe when we get a jailbreak, probably not actually, but I wish we could use it like you use it on an Android device, just by, you don't have to launch the application. You could just say, okay, Google, whatever.
And that's probably why the Nexus 5's battery life is so horrific.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's actually, other than just being able to say, okay, Google, there's some other cool things, other new features in this latest search app. I think they added reminders, right? So you can say, remind me to take out the trash at X amount of time. Or if it can integrate with your Google or Gmail calendar, and you can say, remind me to never forget to put out the trash, and it'll set up a recurring event kind of thing. So
yes, it does this, but I don't use any of these services, so... I mean, I'm sorry.
It's still a feature.
I don't use the calendar app. I don't use Google Calendar at all. So that's something.
Okay, well, for people who do, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're not talking just about me here.
But it also has, there's new cards where you can see event tickets. If there's a game, a professional sporting event going on, or maybe like a boarding passes for you're about to go on a trip or something like that. So this was actually just a huge update that I think brought the Google search app more in line with Google's Android offering in this area. Yeah,
it's definitely a good looking application. I like how you can flick the cards to get rid of them. It's done very well. Google has come a long way in terms of design, user interface and design. I mean, they've really come a long way, and I mean, they actually started this before Apple did with iOS 7, I believe. I'm not saying Google started it all, but I would say that Google started it before Apple did. Apple was all about textures and leather, and Google was all about like square, clear red buttons. And
well, I think really, if you really want to get down to it, it's Microsoft who is the one who iterated that style before anyone else, including Google, and I think everyone else just kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit.
Right.
Well, I think Google though, and I agree with Sebastian here. If you noticed, Google started giving all of its iOS apps a makeover. They just, especially back in 2009. If you were to look at some of the screenshots from back then of Google's apps, you would be like, you wouldn't be able to believe that it was the same company that is now making the types of apps it makes now. Mm-hmm. They started remaking them, and they're white spaces with black, sharp, skinny text. I mean, it looks like a lot like pre-iOS 7, and then it kind of rolls into iOS 7, where Apple, I think, took a lot of, whether they took design cues from Google, you could see some similarities there. Like absolutely. It's almost like a trend or a transition in design language.
One thing I have to say, though, is Google's icons on Android devices are horrible. I mean, it's just so horrible. It is so ridiculously ugly. Like I want to use an Android device. Like I want to be able to be like, yes, I can use this. I could make this my daily driver, but you just don't realize how many subtle things in iOS make it iOS. How many subtle features make it what it is. Like rubber banding, just to name something off the top of my head, really makes a huge perceptual difference when using iOS. When you don't have that, it just feels, I don't know, Google feels like a piece of plastic. It's almost like using a piece of plastic, whereas iOS feels more organic. I don't know. Hard to explain.
It's the little things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But to come back on what you were saying that Microsoft started it all, I kind of have to kind of almost disagree with this. I agree to a certain extent that Microsoft started it all, but what Microsoft failed to do was to make it a very a beautiful experience. What Microsoft did, it made everything square, basically. You know, it has square tiles and everything. But, and I'm sure, I mean, you probably own like 20 of them before, Jeff. If you've played with if you've played with a Windows Phone, all right, nothing is really clear to me there. It's these big tiles. I mean, it is obvious. I mean, you see like big things in your face. And it actually doesn't help the user experience, in my case anyway. It doesn't help me see things better, navigate better, understand quicker where I should tap, what I should do. I mean, I really like how it looks.
Right.
But as soon as you use it, I'm lost. It's just too much going on here.
Exactly. It like that's a perfect example. It looks good, but it lacks the design direction necessary to be completely usable. Like the looks are great. It has the minimalistic flat look, square look. That's awesome, but there is some design direction questions that still linger.
Or I would say well, I had the word and it just disappeared. It's not intuitive at all. And it kind of wraps back around to what you were saying, Jeff, about user experience, beautiful experience, so to speak. Once you get past that home screen, which I really like, I like the square tiles that give you information at a glance. But once you get past that, though, if you swipe right, your apps are just in one long list. When you try to open up like text messages, things like that, it all looks different. To me, and I've said this before on Twitter and things like that, but it almost feels like an acid trip. There's just so many things going on that it kind of makes your mind want to explode. You're like, I don't know how to get back to where I was. And so that's my 2 cents, I guess, on Windows Phone. And although it looks great, you're right, Jeff, the experience just isn't there.
Yeah.
So you published a post on IDB today about giving some keyboard shortcut tips. And I found it pretty interesting because in the past, I have banged my head against the wall because I use an app and I use a couple of apps and I'm used to using a keyboard shortcut in one app and I'm expecting this keyboard shortcut to be the same in the other app, and it's not. Or sometimes there is just no keyboard shortcut at all. In certain applications, you just have to use your mouse and go to the menu bar and select manually what you want to do. So your post was very interesting to me. That's definitely something that I bookmarked and will get back to later to tweak my workflow, really. That was a really good post. How do you come up with it? And you said, hey, I have to do a post about this. I think it would be very helpful for people, or...
there's so many things that I do on my Mac, like it's ridiculous, and we really haven't touched the Mac on IDB.
Right.
I mean, not really. There's just so much untapped stuff that, hundreds and hundreds of things that I could talk about on the Mac itself that I use on a daily basis. That's just one of them. The keyboard shortcuts are a huge deal for me. Like I could not do what I do, like video wise, Final Cut, just assigning certain shortcuts to that is essential. So I don't know. It's just a lot there we could talk about.
Yeah. What I like about these kind of posts is that they don't require any app, anything. It's just improving your experience with what you have. And obviously you need a Mac. But you don't need to download an application. You don't need to do anything. It's just like, hey, this is what you have. If you have a Mac, everybody has the same setup, and this is what you can do. And I love this because I think it appeals to many people, because people, would rather not have to use an app if they can, And people like me, I like to learn something new about my system. I never really looked into it, and so I never thought about it. Maybe if I had thought about it, I would have probably figured out that there was a way to customize your shortcuts. But that's cool because you were very proactive. You thought ahead of me, and you came up with that. And you're definitely going to make my life easier in the future with that little tip you gave us. So definitely feel free to come up with more of these as you find out more. Or sometimes, I found it when you're a user of a certain product that you use on a very regular basis, and in our case, it would be the Mac, or I'm definitely not a Mac power user at all, but I think I'm a iOS power user. And sometimes I do things on my iPhone or my iPad that I really take for granted. Some things that to me are like the dead basics of iOS. Yet, when someone looks over my shoulder, it could be my wife, it could be my mom, it could be my aunt, my cousin, a friend, a neighbor. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? What is this? This is really cool." And I'm like, "Well, that's pretty basic stuff, It's just double tapping and flicking up, something very simple." And I think we forget as power users of our respective devices that most people are not power users, and they can definitely benefit from the little tips and trick that we give on IDB sometimes. And you've probably noticed that recently, in the last few months, we started sharing some very basic tips, how to set up an alarm, how to use an iTunes song as your alarm sound on iOS. I mean, that's something that many people are going to say, "Oh yeah, I already know how to do this." But that's something that my wife had no clue about. I sent her the link. I said, "Hey, here, instead of waking me up every morning with your annoying alarm sound, just do this and play some nice music in the morning." And I just think we forget these nice little things. So it's nice to go back to the basics sometimes. That I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
And one thing I like about OS 10 is that there's just, it can't be emphasized enough how nice this operating system is. I think, like you said, we take for granted some of the things that you can do, but it really is a powerful platform to do things in. With Windows, there's a lot of hackery stuff, or I don't know the word for it, a lot of just
hacking.
Yeah, registry edits and stuff like that on Windows that's okay, but there's some basic things you can do in OS 10 that to customize your workflow that not only is it very powerful, but it's also fairly easy and straightforward to do.
Less involved, than trying to edit your registry.
Right.
I agree. I'm with Sebastian. I'd like to see more of these.
Yeah, and even you, Cody, if you have something that you come to realize that you do on your Mac or your iOS device that might not be a given for everybody, just feel free to put up a quick tutorial. These posts on IDB, I'll tell you what, I'll share a secret with you, just the two of you. These posts are the ones that do the best on IDB.
Right, they have legs.
Yeah. We post 20, on average, it's probably 20 posts. We publish maybe 20 posts a day on average on IDB, on a weekday. And 90% of them are going to be a news post, something that happens today and tomorrow it's gone. It's what I call these the news article. And these don't have legs, like you say, Jeff. People read them and they just forget about them, and no one read them ever again tomorrow. But when we do posts like this, they're very helpful, and you can see this in the analytics of the site. If you go to the top most visited pages on IDB this year or this week, this month, I can bet you right now that the most visited pages are going to be the one where we explain something, where we give tips, not the one where we say Apple has 36% market share for iPhone in the US. It's just something that people don't really care about after they've read it. Once they read it, it's gone, and no one will ever come back to this news next week or next month unless it's accidentally.
Right.
Yeah, and that's really how when I started IDB, that was really the essence of IDB. It really was more about how-tos and tutorials than anything else. It was, lots of posts were about how to do this, how to do that on your iPhone, and how to hack this. And so we grew, and now we incorporate more stuff in IDB, and I think we do a pretty good job. But at the end of the day, like, that's these how-tos and tutorials and tips and tricks that really make IDB what it is, and that I think keep people coming back and bring new people to the site through Google. People are going to search for something, how to stop Google Chrome with annoying keychain access request messages. Someone is going to Google this, and they're going to come to Jeff's post that he published in March of this year, and maybe they'll become loyal readers of the site. Hopefully, yeah. This post, like the one you published in March about the keychain access request message from Chrome. This is a post that's very, very popular on IDB from search traffic. If people just Google that stuff all the time and come to this page all the time. So that's what I like, because we're really making a difference. We're helping people, and we're creating content that's going to stay there for a while and actually help people, rather than give them a quick piece of information that they'll forget tomorrow.
Yeah, not to say that there's not a place for that, because there's a place for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It goes hand in hand. I mean, the news post, the goal of IDB is also to inform people, and if we stop informing people about what's going on, then we're just, doing tutorials. I mean, there would be a piece missing here. So, I mean, it really goes hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah. So, did you move to T-Mobile completely, Jeff? Are you out of everything else, and you're on a complete T-Mobile user now?
I'm a complete T-Mobile user now.
Okay.
Wow.
To those of us who kind of forgot what happened to you, or who actually don't know what happened to you with T-Mobile, can you refresh our memory, please?
Well, basically they trapped me. They lured me in with that 200 megabytes thing, and that's probably their plan. That's probably their hope, that everyone does that. They, first thing I did was switch my iPad over, and then I was like, well, why not just switch everything over? And then, I dropped Verizon, went to the T-Mobile store, brought my wife's iPhone, my iPhone, and my iPad there, and got switched over to a new postpaid T-Mobile plan, no contract involved. So it's about $100 for my iPhone, my wife's iPhone, and my iPad.
Wow.
$100 a month.
How much did that save you over your Verizon bill?
My Verizon bill was like $165. So, $65 a month or so.
So did you have to maybe I missed this because I was away for a few seconds here. Did you terminate your Verizon contract, or it ended naturally?
I terminated mine.
Okay.
My wife's was not under, so it's the other way around. I've terminated my wife's. Mine was not under contract, so I had to pay $200 in early termination.
Okay, that's something that you're going to recoup in 3 months, right? If you save $65 a month, 3 months and a week or so. Yeah, so that's a good deal.
Because it makes sense. If my contract is another year, then it makes sense to terminate. Now.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Coverage, and have you noticed any kind of coverage differences, and really speed on data, like cellular data?
Coverage? No. Actually, it's really good in my area, but the speed is, I don't know if it's just because the saturation or what. The speed is not as good as Verizon. I probably get about 10 megs down and about 7 megs up, which isn't
Do you
horrible.
notice that in day-to-day usage?
No, it's completely imperceptible in day-to-day usage, just because I'm not running speed tests every day. But so I mean, it's a little slower than Verizon, but like I said, you're not going to notice that just in usage. And also, you don't have this constant cloud over your head worrying about, what if I go over my data? Because I've done that quite a few times, and I ended up having to pay like $10 here, $20 there for an extra.
So you're unlimited, completely unlimited on T-Mobile now, right?
All T-Mobile plans are unlimited. Yeah. There's basically 3 tiers. One is a 500 megabyte LTE plan. The next one is 500 megabytes. The next one is 2.5 gigs. And then the next one is completely unlimited. No data caps, no nothing. It's full throttle. You're good to go.
Yeah, it says here, I'm on their site, and it says, so I'm only the unlimited $70 per month plan. No overages with unlimited high-speed data. You never have to worry about overages or being limited by reduced data speeds while on our network. So yes, you're not going to be throttled.
Right. There's no throttling. I am on the, I think 2.5 gigabyte plan. So after I go over 2.5 gigabytes, you're throttled supposedly. Of course, I haven't hit that yet. I'm interested to see though
how bad it slows
how
down.
bad it is. I heard it's edge, but then again, someone else told me it's HSPA. So depending on what it is, it's not really that bad.
So your monthly plan is not $100; it's $120, right?
No, mine is $100, maybe a little less. I have my plan. I am the $60 2.5 gigabyte plan. My wife gets the $30 add-on because she's only 500 megabytes of high speed, and then after that she's throttled.
Okay.
But she doesn't use. I mean, she barely uses 500 megabytes of data a month. And then my iPad is $10 for I can't remember how much, but it's not a lot. I think it's like 700 megabytes.
And then you get a discount, don't you?
Right. So on top of all that, there's like a AAA discount or something like that for 10% or 15% off. So I think I eke right under like the $100 threshold.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
For 3 devices, basically unlimited.
Yeah, because you're not worrying about, okay, well, what if she does go over? It's no big deal. I mean, if you end up using that much data, yes, you're throttled. So what? It's like, okay, that's not going to kill you.
Well, I'd be interested to see how bad the throttling is.
Yeah.
You should on like like whenever your bill's about to cycle with a day or so left, you should try to
go out there and download some iOS firmware.
Yeah. Push it to the max.
Yeah.
I'd be interested also because I imagine since you switched to T-Mobile, you've really kind of just stayed in your area, right? I'd be interested in if you traveled maybe to another city or even another state, what that looks like.
I'm kind of scared actually of doing that. I don't know. But the thing about it is, the nice thing about this is okay, say it is terrible. So what? I just pack my bags up and go back over to whatever Verizon or AT&T or whatever. There's no loss on my end.
Because you're not on a contract here, right? You're month to month, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, test the waters, especially if you're not in contract. There's no reason not to test it.
Yeah, that makes sense. An experiment type thing makes sense. But yeah,
it's a hassle of like porting your numbers over, but that's really not a big deal, especially if it's saving you. I mean, $65, that's not chump change.
Yeah, over the course of a year. I mean, that's an iPhone here,
Right. Yeah, so.
That's how I calculate the price of things, How much is this? Oh, I saved an iPhone this year. What do you mean? Yeah, what kind? I saved an iPhone 64 gigs. Wow, man, that's big savings.
Tina, how much did you spend at the store? Oh, I spent half an iPhone.
Yeah, I spent an Apple TV and a half.
That's really funny, actually.
Yes. Well, I think that's about it. That about wraps it up for this week's episode. That was an interesting episode.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's going to be...
lots of diverse topics.
Yeah.
And maybe before parting ways here, you, Jeff, published a post this week on IDB called How to Subscribe to Let's Talk iOS, where you explain the various... ways that people can subscribe to the podcast via various applications or iTunes or the stock podcast application or Instacast, Downcast, everything. So if you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, if you're just listening, you're just, browsing by and you happen to listen to this, we suggest you actually subscribe to the podcast. There's many ways you can do it. There will be a link in this post, in the show notes of this episode, where you can learn how to do this. But I'm pretty sure that if you're listening to a podcast, you already know how to subscribe to a podcast. But just in case, please do so. If you subscribe on iTunes, what would be really great is if you could take 2 minutes of your time and rate the podcast on iTunes. You can give us 5 stars or 4 stars, 3, 2, 1 stars if you really, really, really dislike us. But if you don't, that'd be great. If you really like us, you give a nice comment and rate us, give us a few stars. That'd be great. That helps us rank better in iTunes, which means that more people listen to the show. And that's actually very encouraging for us. So that was my little note about this. I think we should...
Speaking of...
Yeah.
You said so more people are listening to the show. You shared a cool number with us not too long ago. What was it? Was it 50,000 people downloaded the first episode?
Yeah, about 50,000, roughly 50,000 people listened to the first episode of Let's Talk iOS. That doesn't mean that doesn't really mean 50,000 people listened from the first second to the very last second when you give your iconic peace and. But that means that 50,000 people actually were curious enough to tune in and listen to it for a while and see if they like it or not. My guess is they liked it because we already had a few very positive comments. On iTunes, there's been, I think, 6 or 7 ratings with comments. It's all 5 stars. It's all very positive and very encouraging comments. So that's really nice. And also on the post we published on IGB last week, about Let's Talk iOS with the first show. Really just, I think it was just 100% positive comment there, except 1 or 2 downers. But I mean, it was very obvious that people really, really wanted this podcast for a while, and I'm glad we're able to do it.
Yes.
I mean, it feels good, it feels natural, and it's fun for us to do, and I think it's fun for people to listen to. I'm still wondering if some people are like, what's this guy saying? I can't understand him. What's this? Is it a French accent? Is it German accent? Is it Brazilian accent? For the record, it's a French accent. And I apologize if I sometimes say things that you don't understand. But I do my best to do a good American accent.
I think you have a lovely French accent.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Splendid.
It's
splendid.
It's a splendid accent. Yeah, so subscribe to the podcast. That'd be great. And give us a quick review on iTunes. That's even better. And make sure to get in touch with us on either on the post on IGB, if you see it in your feed, or on Twitter. If you have something that you want to say to us, maybe a question, maybe a comment, maybe something you think we're doing wrong and we can improve on, feedback is always welcome. If it's constructive criticism, it's really good. If you're going to say this podcast sucks, you're not helping us in any way. But if you said this podcast sucks because you guys do this and I think you should do that instead, that actually helps us a lot because we can correct our mistakes and make things better as we go. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk again next week, right, guys?
Yep.
All right, perfect. That was Let's Talk iOS episode 2. See you guys next week.
Later.
Awesome. Peace.